It's super duper tight, and it's got like pockets over each boob. Hello, everybody. Thank you for listening to the Drunkduck QUACKCAST, which is what I'm doing now. This is QUACKCAST number 583, and with me is Tansri and Pitface. Hello.
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 Pit, you sound very charming.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm feeling in perfect health. Thank you.
All right. Today we're talking about the importance of sticking with things that are bad, just to work out why they're bad, and to help that inform you about how to do your own stuff better, your own creative stuff, webcomics, or whatever other creative thing you happen to be working on. But, we're webcomickers, and we presume you are too. So, stick with a bad thing, like a bad anime, bad movie, and don't just laugh at it, dismiss it, or turn it off. Actually work out why it's bad, and maybe then you'll find not everything about it is so bad. Only just that one thing, that was fixed to be good, and maybe you're guilty of doing that same, mess up as well in your own work. Anyway, so before we get into that, I want to bring up the featured comic. So, the feature for this week was Oni Streamer Builds a Mech. Yumi is an Oni girl. That's a type of Japanese spirit with horns. She's also a streamer, at least she wants to be. Things aren't going so well at the moment. She's looking at what's out there, and it's all pretty weird and in your face. Swearing gamers, big boo bubble heads, angry political squawkers, anime pervs, and more. What will her streaming style turn out to be? Stay tuned to find out. This is a slice-of-life manga-style comedy with a lot of bright, bold, happy colours and clear artwork. At the moment, the story is a funny meta-commentary on streaming. So you get to see all the different types of streamers there are, and this particular Oni girl's attitude towards them, or opinion on them, or opinion on the kinds of things that she'd like to do herself, and what she thinks of all these crazy different streamer types. And there's more streamer types than even I realised. I wasn't aware of most of these, so it was quite an education to me. And obviously the title points to the kind of thing she's eventually going to hit upon, building a mech. Now, what will she build a mech for? Will her streaming channel be about her building a mech? Will building a mech help her stream? Will it be some kind of video Mechatron creature that films her? Or will it be a partner for her to do streaming with? We don't know at this stage. Anyway, have a read of Oni Steamer Builds a Mech. It's by Mo Almighty, and it's rated T for teen. And that was the featured comic. Okay, so next up we have the featured music that Gumwallace has given us, and he has given us the theme to Malefic Demon Apocalypse, a creepy red garden filled with writhing demonic monstrosities and horror. This electronic piece grinds and roars, sounding like an acidic burning harpsichord spewing fury and vitriol in a crimson torrent. So, take it away, Gumwallace, with Malefic Demonic Apocalypse. And I hope you liked that. The Malefic Demonic Apocalypse, which is a great little comic by Gene Joke, and it's rated M for mature. Okay, so, guys, bad stuff. Sticking with it to find out why it's bad, and maybe this thing isn't as bad as you thought, and, you can learn some helpful lessons. Now, I'll just say, what actually influenced me to do this was I was looking for anime to watch on Amazon Prime. And I don't know about the American version of Amazon Prime Video. But the Australian version has hardly any anime. Most of it is in Japanese with subtitles, even common stuff, which is pointless for me because I want to draw while I'm watching. So I need, dubbed. And there's a few that are dubbed. There's like Yu-Gi-Oh, which I really don't really like that very much. And there's this magical girl kind of one, and which is not bad. And then there was this one about these secret agents who go to a high school and have to find these other secret agents and kill them. And as I was watching it, I thought, gee, this is pretty bad. And I thought about it, and I thought, that's a bad premise. It's bad animation. It's bad character design. Everything about this is bad. I should just turn it off. But I thought, no, I'll stick with it and just see what happens. And it just got worse. And it just kept making these weird, mistakes in writing and plotting. And just digging itself deeper into this pit of just horribleness. And in the end, it was like this kind of personal torture that I was forcing myself to sit through the entire 26 episodes of this anime, like some crazed anime reviewer, to see what made this thing tick and if it ever did get better. I kept wanting it to get better, and it just never did. I can't remember what it's called. It's something like Knights Cross. Agents. Had everything.
Very memorable, apparently.
Yes, but it had everything you could think of that would make an anime bad. A really long title that's highfalutin and it's very pretentious. Knights, Cross, Saviors. Ridiculous. Probably a direct translation from the original Korean. I think it would have been, because it looked like that Korean style of animation that's not so honed as the anime style. Things are a bit more angular, or not like full on Korean, the well kind of high budget ones, but the really low budget Korean stuff has this angular look. It's not so good, and it was like that. It was just severely bad, but it gave me the idea of if this was an example of something that had really no redeeming features. I wanted it to have redeeming features, and I stuck with it all the way through, and it didn't. But I thought to myself, it could be valuable in some cases to sit with something all the way through. Not in this case, but in the case of a work that has some promise, and see why it's bad, and then let that inform you of what you're doing is wrong, or could be better, or maybe you could find a way to enjoy it. So anyway, that was my
example. Could be so, there are some really bad works that are so bad they're good. The value they bring is that the badness is almost to the level of satire. So it has different enjoyment features, if you like. Nothing comes to mind right now, but I'm certain I have this experience in my mind that I have had this so bad it's good. Oh, okay. So, for example, what's I remember it. It's Dungeons and Dragons. It was, I think.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about.
With
There's
Jeremy
three
Irons.
kids.
I think. That's
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
yeah,
Live action.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Like it brings a smile to my face just to think of it.
I
Like
want to
it's so
see
fun.
that. I've been looking for it. I really wanted to see that after we all played Dungeons and Dragons together with Gun
It's
Wallace.
it's beautiful. It's a thing of beauty. It's so
We should
tender.
watch it on here sometime then.
Yeah, yeah. I'm
Let's do
on
that.
board. That's the one thing that it's like whenever I genuinely laughed with this movie, and for me that is just a value there. Although it is an intentional value, it is value nonetheless. But then on the other hand, you have movies that are so bad they are unwatchable, and I think that you shouldn't stick with those to the end. You see, there is no potential in the beginning in the first place, so there is no real reason to expect that there will be potential later on. It's like you build on really uh, um, a rotten foundation, so the whole edifice will come down anyway. So, and I think the difference in this is that in the So Bad It's Good, there are elements that are like narratively sound, but the execution could be really bad in ways that are amusing. Whereas in the other case, you have dreadful mistakes in like the narrative core of a story. So, and that can actually irritate rather than amuse the audience. And that's when it's bad, so bad it's painful.
So bad it's bad.
Yeah. So yeah, that I think that's like I'm trying to think um, of a movie that is that bad right
One
now.
that
But
comes to my mind. Sorry, go on.
no, I'm just saying that my brain deletes these as a principle.
Yeah,
So
it
Mm.
protects you.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, and I don't know how often I do finish things that I deem bad. Like, hmm, I don't know. But um examples wise, I think I'm sure for a couple of things that I say people are going to hate me, but there's this one movie that comes to my mind very quickly when I try to find an example of a movie that I saw that I deem to be just, it's not terrible. It just missed the mark pretty good, unless I'm just not getting it. But it's called Reflective Skin.
That's an awesome title.
Yeah, that's what drew me to it. Uh, and on paper, the premise is good, and it's basically one of those movies, kind of like, kind of a coming of age thing, but it's very hard, and it's very cruel in a lot of ways, which also is another thing that can draw you to it, because it's a very much a coming of age story from a very specific kind of point of view. This boy growing up um, in this town, this little tiny place in the middle of nowhere, and these terrible things happen, and there's no way for him to really appropriately deal with it and the things that scare him. There's no good thing there to really help him out. And so that's, on paper, that sounds like something really worth seeing to me, right? Because usually in coming of age movies, there's something there to help the protagonist along, but there's really nothing there for this poor kid. And that's the reality for a lot of kids out there. But this movie, I think where it went wrong is it just started going out of its way to be so unbelievably cruel that it almost became funny. Like watch us fuck with this kid for like 2.5 hours, for like an hour and a half to 2 hours. I forget how long it was, but like I don't know. By the time the movie's done, it literally closes on a scene of him going no in the middle of a field, like
Really?
yeah.
Oh, dear.
And so it's just like and like the bad stuff that happens is like tremendously bad, and then it gets worse. Like spoilers, like his dad ends up being accused of uh how do I put it?
Abuse.
Victimizing children.
Right. Yeah.
And as a result, his father sets himself on fire, and then this kid is blamed in a way for it. Like it just keeps getting bad. Like terrible, terrible fucking things. Um so yeah, I mean that's one movie that I think of that on paper it had the potential to be something really good and something really profound.
Yeah.
But it leaned way too hard into just kicking the shit out of this kid.
Mhm.
Where I ended up not being able to really take it seriously. Like,
Yeah. I've
Yeah.
seen films like that. The Son's Room is my favorite example of that, where it's one of these very harshly realistic kind of films about a an Italian family. The dad is a psychiatrist, and the whole family's coming to terms that the son had committed suicide, and they're all sort of trying to live through that and work it out in their brains what happened and why it happened and stuff. But the tragedies that keep on happening in the film, and especially to the dad, they just get piled up and up and up, and you just can't take it seriously, and it becomes funny because what else is bad's gonna happen now? What other terrible thing is someone? It's just like
Make a drinking game out of it. Like take a shot
exactly.
every
It was.
yeah.
I was watching it with my friends, and we were just like making up like scenarios. This is gonna be 5 ninjas gonna burst into the room now and chop him up and shit all over him. Literally.
It just turns
Yeah.
into a Tarantino film then. So.
Yeah. No, it's like even Tarantino says, like, my man, like, that's too much. That's too much
Well, no, he
of
has
that.
an appropriate way of putting too much in his movies. He does it in a
Yeah.
way to where it's all in the execution, right? And like on that note again of like just going beyond and potentially ruining something. Another movie that I saw, actually this one far more recently, and that I liked overall, still had a bit of that in it. It was uh Last Night in Soho, which is a
Right,
good
yeah.
movie. I liked it. Potential spoilers for this part. Oh, that doesn't matter because these characters that I'm going to talk about don't fucking matter. They don't impact the story. That's why I hate that they are in it. But there's these. So this girl goes to school, um, a fashion school in London, and there's these girls that she meets there, and they're like stereotypical like high school mean girls, like really, really terrible to her. And like I'm sure some people do still have that happen in their university years, but it doesn't happen very often. And there's just not like aside from being one of the reasons why she moves out of the building she's in the first place, there isn't any reason for them to be there throughout the movie.
Yeah.
Like they just kind of come out of nowhere, do something mean and dumb, and like I suppose one of the reasons is to kind of show you how alone she is, but there's other ways to do that other than like put these I hate characters like that. They're the bully that's just there because we needed a bully for some reason and that's it. And then we gotta give them their comeuppance in the end. Like, okay, well, great. Cathartic that she almost got stabbed in the eye or something. I don't know. Fuck. Like I don't fucking care about that character. Show me more of the murder mystery, you know?
Right, yeah. Just side stereotype tropes that just come in to do their trope and then they go again.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing that I like a pet hate. I would say that that is a pet hate because a lot of people do like it. Personally, I cannot stand it. Is that when they put in something, it's just for like the whole premise is basically trying to go for shock value more than really wanting to show something. It's like they bend everything, even the plot logistics in a sense, just for shock value. And the one movie I'm thinking of this is The Human Centipede. I could never finish that movie, and like I don't want to put myself through that sort of thing. But the whole, I read in like the summary to see how it ended, and the whole thing is just a really twisted, perverse fantasy in a sense, that has no way in hell to happen the way it did, and then it gives you nothing, except like a better vomit response reflex or something. But yeah, I really don't like that. Like, oh, what is the most disgusting, disturbing, uh, pointless thing that we can think of? Let's put that there front and center and pan the camera right in and zoom into the whole disgusting thing so that we will get.
You hate shock, is what you're saying.
No, I like shock. I like shock. I really like shock, but I don't like it just for shock's sake, if you like.
No, I get it.
But yeah, just I can see how someone would be a perverted, asshole. Sorry for the word.
With a mouth attached to it.
Yeah, with or without the mouth attached to it. But the idea is that I have to understand why you are focusing on that so much. Like, I got the point, I got the idea. Can we just move on and tell me what you want to do with this thing?
Yeah.
As a creator.
No, I get it.
Like, for example, there were, like, take Schindler's List. It has a lot of perversions in it. It has a lot of really harsh scenes, really shock value. And everything is, in my opinion, necessary in there, to get, the whole atmosphere across, the setting across, the level of sacrifice across. And even just for that last scene where Schindler is holding, the golden pin from his lapel and is having this monologue in the end. Even just for that, everything builds up to that. So that, stellar, excellent.
Well, even like compared to, I guess a more like people usually tend to compare Human Centipede to Saw as well, and I get the reason for those comparisons because they are on the outside they are very similar movies, and I'm just talking about the first Saw. It's also very much a like gratuitous shock movie that is there to shock, but there is more to be interested in the first Saw movie. It's it's a puzzle. It's you want to see are they gonna do the thing? Are they what's this guy about with the puppet? Anyway, go on.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't like Saw, but it didn't give me that feeling as this Human Centipede in the sense that there was some purpose, or like Take 7, or any of these movies that has a lot of shock value in it, but there is still a reasoning behind it. There is something, even the perpetrator, that is the very twisted person, has a reason behind it that you hate but you sort of understand, like it makes quote unquote sense, and you don't rebel against the plot, and especially you don't rebel against the delivery of it in sense. So
yeah, well, I think it's well known for being a film that only exists because it's a shocking premise, and it's not really known as being a good film by anyone. Really. It's just known because
Still
wow, that's
better
so
than
gross. I have to see.
I would watch that over, or like take for example, what's another one that is there just to think up creative ways to kill people. I saw your death. I saw no, um, the one where someone can see in visions how people are going to die or something like
Final
that, and then
Destination.
yes, that's the one. I was trying like the Greek title is I see your death, and I couldn't do
Oh,
it. So yeah, that for me is a little bit funny, but still better than the human centipede. So yeah.
Well, here's an example of a film. I had to look up the movie review thread because
Mm.
my mind goes blank just like yours does. A film I watched the other day, Eternals, or The Eternals. I don't know. It's a Disney film.
uh,
It's a Marvel film.
Mhm.
So one of these, the new wave of Marvel MCU films, and I wasn't really interested in it to begin with, but then I thought, oh, maybe it might be good. Maybe there might be some good characters. I don't know. I'll give it a go. Like, I've got nothing against it or nothing for it. I just wanted to see how it was, and it wasn't a good film. There were some problems with it, unfortunately, but it wasn't a really bad film either. So it had some value to it. There's really interesting characters. It was a good setup, but my God, this film was a real good example of why it's important to watch these things all the way through, and to see what makes it bad, because a lot of people are ripping on these sort of films and saying, oh God, the Eternals, oh, piece of crap, it didn't gross very much money, and it's a failure, it's a flop. But to actually watch it, then you can see, oh wow, I can see it's so badly plotted, and that's a bad thing to do. So it starts off with a text dump, you know, whole big paragraph on the screen telling you about the premise, which is bad. We only like it in Star Wars because it was a stylistic choice. Like that, in Star Wars is not a good example of why it works. Star Wars is, they're only using it because it's referencing Flash Gordon and Buck Rogers from the 1940s. That's the only reason that exists. It's nothing to do with the story. That no Star Wars story existed. It was just a stylistic fun thing. Anyway, so it starts off with a text dump that you have to read in order to get up with the premise. Then we sort of get some flashes of why these characters exist, and so we jump through the time as these characters come up to the present. But it doesn't really inform us who these characters are, why they exist. They've all got these gods' names, so we're meant to work out, they're named after gods. They're sort of like superheroes. Maybe people worshipped them and started religions around them, and Athena is actually Athena that is worshipped, and Phaistos is actually Hephaestus, but it doesn't really work out. And then they're different ethnicities for the people that they're meant to be gods of, and you think, well, hang on, that's a bit weird. There's this other character that can make illusions and do control what people see, and there's this other character who can change people's minds, and you think, well, okay, so maybe this character changed their minds and made them see these characters as gods, or maybe this one created a godlike illusion, but they never show that happening. They could have easily showed that happening, but so there's no in movie reason for this, even though they could have done it so easily. And then so the film keeps on going with we have these Cthulhu monsters that these things have to destroy, big tentacles, CGI. And that's another thing. So their main enemy are these monsters that don't mean anything. They don't really have any personality, or they're not supervillains. They're just these animal creatures that have to be killed. So again, tension and drama is not very strong. Then we have there's a mystery about where these people come from, and you know, why they're being sent to Earth by this alien creature. And that all gets, like, that's a big mystery until, like, a third of the way through the film. And then we're told exactly why, like, a character just tells us the mystery that's sort of been building up for the first third of the film. He just, like, completely explains the whole frickin' thing. And then we have another mystery about who killed this character. And then 2/3 of the way film, a character just goes and tells us the whole thing and shows us exactly how it happened. You think, you just, like, eviscerated all mystery and drama by just having a character explain to us all the details, you know, not even properly showing us through actions and stuff, just telling us most of this stuff. So it's just so freaking amateur. And then you look at like, it had some deleted scenes because it's through Disney Plus, and the deleted scenes actually point out a lot of stuff that should have been in the film, because then they make things make sense. Like there's this character who's the love interest of one of these gods, and he's always calling this character Icarus the pilot. He's saying, "Oh, here's the pilot. You're the pilot. Oh, you're the pilot." And there's no reason for him to do that. No one ever called him a pilot. We don't know why. He's saying pilot, pilot, pilot. And that's from a deleted scene. It turns out that he was told that this character's a pilot. So it was a great example of simple things that are, you know, like amateurish mistakes that made a film bad, that could have been really good, because like, they've got top-notch actors, all the dialogue's good, the characters are great. It's just shocking execution. So yeah, that was The Eternals, and my opinion of it. It was hamstrung by a few simple mistakes.
Sometimes deleted scenes are scenes that should not have been deleted at all. Like, I don't remember it exactly. I just remember the impression that I had. So I'll be really vague. So the second Mulan animated movie that went, I think it went straight to DVD, or if it didn't, it really went really fast to DVD. Which was about, like, these three Chinese princesses and friction between Mulan and what's his name? I forget him. So anyway, Shang, whatever.
Okay.
So it felt a lot of things felt forced, and the whole plot with the princesses was meh. It was completely, like, you were not interested at all, like, at all. You would prefer, like, you know, can you please just drop off the cliff and we can continue with something more interesting. But then I saw, like, a couple of deleted scenes where they were just by themselves, these princesses, and they were discussing stuff, and they suddenly became worthwhile characters that you would like to follow through. And then all the other scenes that they had different value, just thanks to that one deleted scene that they deleted. Like, it's like, you don't delete these scenes. These are where they get, you know, character development. This is where they explain how they become who they become, and you just show us, you know, the before and after image, and nothing in between. So nobody is interested. So that was, like, that second movie could have been worthwhile if not for deleting these scenes. And same goes with the relationship of you know, Mulan and her guy, and yeah.
That is, it has a lot of value, because then you go, oh, yeah, this kind of character development is important, because I've shown the characters doing this and, you know, being this way and reacting in this way, but why are they reacting in this way? What made them do that? And yeah, that shows you. So that, as a writer, you know, as a creator, you go, oh, I have to have this kind of, these establishing kind of things in order for this stuff to be believable. Another bad thing I saw the other day, speaking about Marvel stuff, it was not bad. It was not as good as it could be. Shang-Chi, The Legend of the Seven Rings, I think it's called.
Oh, I wanted to see that. That was
Yeah, me too.
It's not bad, but there are some really glaring errors in it that could have made it better. There's so many things in it that are fantastic. It starts off, my God, brilliantly. Some of the action in there. It's basically Marvel's version of a traditional Hong Kong kung fu film. And it starts off with some fantastic action. The best I've seen in a Marvel film, really. So it's just really hits it out of the park in a lot of it. But what the errors it makes that don't make it, as good as it could be, is it goes back to this Marvel formula of building up a bad guy, building him up, and then having him, spoilers here, not being the real kind of bad guy in the end, but the real bad guy is the Cthulhu monster. And all the guys, like the heroes' sidekicks, are so tough and strong, but they're only worthy of killing like Cthulhu sidekick meaningless monsters that no one cares about. This happened in the Avengers, with they all got together, Captain America, Incredible Hulk, whatever. So the bad guy in there was Loki through the whole film. Let's say Loki's the really bad guy, and in the end, Loki's meaningless, and the real bad guys, these meaningless Cthulhu monsters who all the people are trying to kill, like basically CGI animated balloon kind of things with tentacles. Just crap. And this is a Marvel formula. A lot of the not great Marvel films, like I love these Marvel films because of the action, and they're exciting, they're colorful, and they're so fun. But they do tend to fall into this formula of building up a bad guy, and then having everyone just fight meaningless CGI stuff in the end. That these characters, like the CGI monsters, don't have any personality. They're nothing. They're just like goons. It's the equivalent of, you remember Batman, the original live action series with whoever that guy was, Adam West, yeah. And Batman would get to beat up the bad guy, and Robin would be beating up the sidekicks. Well, actually, Batman and Robin would mostly beat up the meaningless sidekicks, and they'd hardly ever actually beat up the real bad guy. So there'd be a bunch of guys with like a big P on their chest and a little hat with ears, and they'd be fighting these guys, these extras, with the same extras in every single show, just with a different shirt.
Well, that was awesome, though. Like, I really enjoyed it as a kid.
I did too. But that's basically...
it's such a cult gift to pop
memery.
culture.
It is. But that's basically what these Marvel films do. One of the problems. They build up a human villain throughout the whole film, and then not have them as the villain, the real villain. Then they're fighting these meaningless monsters, and so the victory in the end isn't very satisfying, because you don't get to see them have some, denouement with this bad guy was so bad. It turns out that they're not bad, they're actually a friend. And here's oh God, why do you do that again? And you might say, well, Shang-Chi just did the same thing that all the rest did. But they did it. You'd expect one of these later films to kind of learn from that and not just repeat the same errors over and over again, especially when it starts off so kick-ass. So, yeah, that's an example of not a bad film, but a film that could have been better. Should have been better.
Speaking of that, I think Wonder Woman falls in this category, at least for certain things. In my opinion, at least. And this is my opinion. Other people really, really liked the whole thing. I enjoyed a lot of things in it, but as a whole, when the movie was done, I was left indifferent, which I don't think is a good sign for any kind of story. And the biggest pet peeve that I had was the villain, Ares, the god of war. And
Oh.
I really liked, it had these two ideas that I liked both of them. I really, really like excellent stuff. The first one would be that, okay, she starts off believing that the god of war is putting people, pitting people one against the other, and if she can defeat the god of war, then all wars will stop, and blah, blah, blah. But that is not true because it is the human nature that does it. I really love that. That's one thing. Or the other thing would be that it really is the god of war, and he's doing all these things, and you have to defeat the god of war to stop X and Y war, blah, blah. Then again, I would be all for that. But they do this sort of lukewarm thing where it is both human nature and the god of war, and it's not really clear what is happening. That is one thing. And the other thing is the god of war himself, like his character design, was so underwhelming. Like I really liked it initially that he was this like oldish guy with like looking really puny and stuff,
Yeah.
because that would be a perfect disguise. But you have the god of war when the time comes for him to transform, because they have a transformation there for the god of war, he still is this puny old guy. It's like where is my big impressive hunk of a guy that now she needs to defeat?
Yeah. Make him actually be Ares. Not
Yeah. Or don't then transform him. Keep him like an emperor level type villain. But his villainy and his warmness, if you like, is not in his appearance, but in whatever it is he does and his magic powers and stuff. But pick a side and go for it. Go, like, give, satisfy expectations in a sense. I would say, like, this is like something that underwhelmed me. So the climax was also underwhelming, and then the wrap up was also underwhelming for me. So
Yeah, I agree. I remember coming away feeling a bit underwhelmed as well, despite I mean, there are some very cool parts in the movie and stuff, but I don't remember really ever feeling like she couldn't handle what ultimately would come. I never felt like there was a moment like, oh, I mean, of course, by the end she is going to win, but um you can still find ways to keep the audience in suspense, especially if she's going to be coming up against the war god. She's an Amazon, but she's not uh, a pantheon goddess. That's a perfect opportunity to throw a bit more of danger in there. Because I know the main thing with Diana is the conflict that you were talking about, right? She, wants to save people, and she starts coming to the realization that we're assholes. We fight each other. But, you can still also have that uncertainty, especially with the big boss at the end, since there is a lot of fighting in this movie. Ultimately, even if she does start to come around and think that even if humans have flaws, they're still worth saving. The cherry on top of that would have been, okay, but can you save them now? That would have been that. I think that was just a little bit of something that
exactly,
just
thank
wasn't
you.
there. Yeah.
And I also thought like Ares was like the excellent choice, because of all the pantheon gods, he is the one that has been defeated by mortals in mythology. Diomedes, yes. But even that, even like the mortal that defeated the god of war had help from another goddess to do it. So I would expect like, okay, Diana potentially can do it, but she needs this extra oomph, this extra help, possibly by the guy that she's with, or some artifact or whatever. I mean, something. So you could have this danger element that, oh, she cannot potentially, like she has a good chance of losing if she does not get X, Y, Z help, whatever that would be. Could be anything. So, yeah, I mean, it was like so much potential there and yet not really used.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I haven't seen Wonder Woman, and a lot of people recommend it, saying it was a really good one. Most people have that complaint about the Wonder Woman 1984.
Haven't seen it. No.
Okay, everyone was super excited to see that, and then they were super disappointed. So. But no one knows. We can't comment why that was not so good. Well, that's a shame. I'll never know. I'll have to watch it.
and since we are on a streak of movies that were super popular and made bank, and I personally felt that they were indifferent to me or bad even. Frozen is another one, like the original Frozen. I haven't seen Frozen 2 because when I get underwhelmed, I rarely see the sequels.
Yeah. Why would you?
But man, this villain gets under my skin 100%. Like 100%. Not because he could have been an excellent villain, but everything happens so fast. It is not built up in the story, and then again, like he doesn't feel super threatening in a way. I don't know if that makes sense. And nobody feels threatening in this movie, not even Elsa.
That's the guy who wants to be the ruler or something instead of Elsa.
He wants to kill her sister and become a ruler. And everything is so naive in the sense that the sister leaves to find Elsa and she leaves him in charge, and he's this rando prince that she hasn't met and who was running the kingdom until they became of age, since they were completely hands off in the whole administration. How about that guy?
Yeah, the regent.
While you are away. Or girl, whoever it was. So yeah, it feels fairy tale-y, but if a kid narrates it more than anything else for me, and it doesn't catch me. And although it has such good visuals, and yeah,
I agree. I came out of it not really remembering much of it. Yeah, it felt like it was pretty underwhelming. And again, it did have some potential there. The second one, I like the second one a little bit better, but there are things there that also annoy me a lot more. So it's kind of it's weird. I don't know.
I couldn't. Oh, go on. Sorry.
No. I don't think there's too much I was gonna say. Go on.
I couldn't get through it. It was one of these things that I couldn't stick through. Like I'm talking about sticking with something that you don't really like, regardless, just to see why you don't like it. I couldn't stick with it. I like musicals. I love musicals. You know, I grew up with these. You know,
this was a bad musical. It wasn't good.
Yes, I grew up with musicals from the 50s and the 40s, those old 60s. Those old ones, they were really cool. Wasn't a good musical, and I was able to analyze why it wasn't, because the songs didn't have anything to do with the story. They were just songs.
Yeah.
Like characters would go, "We're sweeping snow, and that's what we do. We sweep snow, and we love sweeping snow," and that was nothing to do with the story.
So funny just thinking about it. I'm thinking about sweeping snow and loving it.
It had no bearing on anything. It didn't introduce the world. It
While
didn't introduce the
at
characters,
the same time, the visual of these guys sweeping snow is like they are, on the Volga and rowing, really, like they are in the gallows or something like. But we love it. We look like we're having a terrible time.
We're Disney characters. We love our agony. There's no agony here.
Exactly.
I mean, I did try and stick with it after that. I thought, oh, that's a bit dodgy. That's not a proper musical thing. You're just making a song for the fun of it. And then it just kept going, and the songs just kept on being about The only song I think, well, I didn't even get up to this point where she did the famous "Let It Go," because all the other songs were just about characters just singing for the point of doing a song. They weren't story songs at all, and it was just bored the crap out of me. And they weren't even in the musical style either. They were pretend pop songs, and
it felt very jukeboxy, like in a way that
Exactly.
didn't at all work. Yeah, it was bad. And then the second one does that a lot too. It doesn't get any better. It's just like with the first one where they have the one song that's like the character's aria, and the rest around it are just they don't fucking matter. They don't matter. And then in the second one, another thing that really really annoyed me was that, oh, excuse me, I'm getting all phlegmy for some reason. But her sister and the fiance like didn't have to be in there at all. They had no bearing on the plot, and in the second one especially because it was Elsa's story and how she's kind of finding out about herself and stuff, and I like that. But then there's this whole subplot where Anna and that guy's name, the guy she's with, big dude.
Lars? Is that wrong?
No,
No.
I think that's right.
That's the name that came into my head.
Anyway, the guy that had the elk in the first movie, whatever. They get in these stupid petty disagreements over these non-issues or these misunderstandings that it's like yeah, Christoph. It's like why can't I think of words? Sitcom stuff. It's like sitcom writing.
Yeah.
Is what it comes off as. And it's just, it takes up like so much of the movie. And this is the one that I like more out of the two. But yeah, it doesn't just shoot itself in the foot. It takes a 12 gauge, puts the barrel up against the foot and pulls the trigger. It's bad. But the parts that are good are nice. I like the visuals and stuff. But
yeah, and the visuals are pretty great. I think that it's, especially for Disney and studios like that, it's super hard to have ugly visuals. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. There are so many things. I think they try to repeat elements that they know were successful in previous movies or previous works.
Yeah, which is a good
shove them
sign
in.
they're doing something wrong.
Yeah, they shove them in just because, like, yeah, let's throw this big triumphant song moment because that's what we have to do. Or let's have this sort of musically transitional song about people doing stuff because it worked in Beauty and the Beast, for example, or something like that.
They go too much for the formula.
Yeah.
When they shouldn't.
Yeah.
I noticed that with I've been watching a lot of the animated Pixar stuff because I like that, and Pixar's meant to be good at telling stories. But my God, when you see the formula and the patterns, then it doesn't become as interesting anymore. And Pixar is just following hard on this child growing up and developing ideas independently from its parents, or coming of age stuff. And they're just hammering that over and over again with every single freaking movie, the same plot. And it's just getting a bit repetitive and boring, the fact that they do that. These great movies like Red, or Becoming Red, or Turning Red, or whatever it is, which is a fun movie, and it goes, and it has a lot of original kind of things and stuff that isn't normally done. Chinese immigrant family growing up in Canada, so that's some really cool stuff that's a bit more uncommon, but then they just hammer it home with this bloody childhood coming of age stuff that they do in every single film at the moment, which is annoying. Apart from that, what was that? Oh, sorry, go
on. We were probably about to talk about the same thing, I think. I was about to say how refreshing Soul was.
That's what I was thinking.
Was that what you were going to talk about? Yeah. Because it's not coming of age. It's my dreams are dead. What do I do? Which is a very millennial issue. So
that was interesting. Yeah. I mean, what I'm saying about, say, Red, that is using uncommon stuff like, this is the struggles of a Chinese immigrant family who are culturally slightly different from the Canadian people they're around with, so there's like cultural integration stuff, but then so that's unique and interesting, but then we hammer it into the same old frickin' story again and again, so it takes away all the interesting stuff by doing that and making it bland. Whereas with Soul, you're coming up with not only interesting characters but a unique plot, and that's what made Pixar so interesting in the beginning, because everything was like, they didn't go for typical Disney formulas. They did new and interesting stuff. And
and even in terms of the coming of age stuff, this is starting to stray too much into movies that I think are A-okay, but I think Moana handled it really well.
Love Moana.
Yeah, because it's more of an adventure thing, and she isn't really held back by her age. Part of it is a factor, right? But as who she is as a character and where she is in life, but she ends up being very capable, and I don't know, I liked it. I liked watching her on her adventure and stuff, so that was nice.
I think the good thing about Moana was that she starts off not being as good, and then she becomes good. She learns and she becomes good, and that's really a rare thing in movies lately. Like, when I say lately, I mean like the past 5 years or so.
And in terms of Moana, a lot of these other ones are all about showing independence from parents, and like the parents are kind of like the secret enemy in a lot of these things, or it's like a battle of wills between the parents. That's not a factor in Moana at all. Like, there's a slight thing.
It is there, but it's
in the
not...
beginning, but then that's put aside, and then it's
Moana's
adventure.
Yeah, she lives. But I would say that I don't mind that if it's done well. Like, for example, in Pixar, I am willing to watch the same premise if it is done in an original way. Like, for example, Coco is for me one of the best movies, animated movies, and movies in general ever made, because it is like, it takes this premise and it is about this kid that really has ambition and wants certain things, and his family is not the villain but is the antagonist. And I really appreciate that, because usually there is also the trap of like the parents are illogical, negative blip, insert your adjective there. But this everyone has reasons for being the way they are, and everyone has reasons and trauma to deal with. And I really loved that. And again, the introduction into this awesome culture that is Mexican culture felt really, really excellently done. I didn't mind the whole coming of age, because also the family comes of age in a sense as well. They have to have growth themselves. It's not that they are a monolith and the kid is the only one that develops. They all develop together, even the dead people in the movie. So.
Yeah, well, so Coco was about family history, so that was the real kind of plot behind it, and learning family secrets and coming to terms with them.
Yeah, but I think it was still the plot was coming of age. It's just that the backdrop of this plot that supported the entire plot was all of that.
Oh yeah, it's coming of age
But maybe
story, but family secrets. So say the theme in what was that one that's recent and it was all nice colors? Enchanto. So that's another coming of age one, but the plot in there is like getting out of the rigid family structure of like a control freak grandmother, and her trying to keep the family together is what is tearing the family apart because she's too strict and too rigid. So that's the secondary kind of main plot behind that particular film. So yeah, they have coming of age stories with like the multiple plots. I mean, like say Turning Red is coming of age versus coming to terms with your unusual ethnic background. Like it's not unusual, but it's unusual from the people who she's around and being proud of that and not trying to just fit in, but actually express yourself for what you are and embracing your originality. So they do that. But I think it's good when they don't stick so strongly to the coming of age stuff and fall back on that a bit more.
Yeah, definitely. There needs to be like an adventure or a happening or something. And when that character starts to overcome those hurdles, you can't arbitrarily try to make them stick. You know what I mean? Like,
what they learn
I can't
the
think
lessons.
of what movie I'm trying to think. Yeah, so like, say for instance, I go back to Moana because I haven't seen Encanto yet, or Coco, unfortunately. I might now, but uh, but basically, like in Moana, when she does come back and she starts helping her people and they build these ships and stuff, they don't. One of the things that works out really well for this movie is they don't take the disagreement with the father and arbitrarily try to extend it. There's not a big blow up, like, you're building ships, oh, how dare you, or some shit like that. It's, he starts to come around and see her way, which is nice to see because then it's like, yeah, it doesn't make this big, stupid enemy where it doesn't have to exist.
Yeah, family conflict. It doesn't amplify that to be the whole focus of the thing.
Yeah, because coming of age is a multifaceted thing, right? It's more than just trying to get permission from your parents to do things. It's learning about who you are becoming as an autonomous human and what that means and what that looks like for you and the ups and downs, and are you going to be able to be equipped to handle the rest of your life that's coming very quickly. So I don't know. I'm not communicating very well.
Are you going to take on the reins of an adult yourself? You're going to take on those roles. Say in Moana, is dealing with who's the big muscle? The Rock.
I should remember his name because it's.
Oh, come on!
Damn it! I like him a lot.
So he's cool.
That's the welcome song now in my head, but
I love this. Maui.
Yeah. Speaking of which.
Oh, baby. So in that he should be the adult character, but he's super duper childish. So she has to take on the role of an adult to drive things and to be the leader of the adventure, of the exposition. So that's a pretty cool aspect. So it's not
Yeah.
all about her, like, you know, growing up and wanting to fight against her parents. She has to be the adult. She has to take on responsibility and be in control, because the only adult figure isn't doing it. He's behaving like a spoiled little baby through the whole thing. So it's done well in that regard. I love Moana. It was such a really good, entertaining film.
It was.
So
It
yeah,
was.
we can't
made
point out
me
anything
feel
bad
good.
about that.
Yeah. I thought we'd be better at talking about stuff that we hate, because we usually get to do it anyway. We're not doing a good job right now. But no, I mean, that's all part of the discussion, right? Like, when we talk about things that we don't like, you know, it feels very natural to go on to like, oh, but there was this thing that did this thing well, instead of shooting itself point blank in the foot.
Yeah.
And as writers and creators, that's a good way to kind of learn. And to be honest, when I see something that takes a concept, especially if it's a concept that's kind of similar to something that I'm doing or deals with a similar subject, and ruins it, I get a little bit of kind of Schadenfreude. Like, oh, there's a spot here for me to come in maybe a little bit differently. Like, I don't know. It makes me happy.
That's a good way of looking at it. I often look at stuff that's doing the same kind of thing and think, no, you're ruining it for the rest of us. Everyone's going to hate this premise now because you fucked it up. You dickheads.
I mean, it does have its limits, for sure. If it's something that I'm not too attached to, I can kind of have that Schadenfreude. But if it's something I was really looking forward to, I'm like anybody else, I'll get mad about it.
Yeah, I mean, well, like the Star Wars stuff. I mean, for those were an example of me watching them just to see how crappy they could get, or whether they did get any better. Like,
you kind of...
Yeah, for the first films, I watched the first, the first prequel one, Attack of the Clones or Clone Wars or something, I don't know. Phantom Menace, that was it. So I watched that and I was like so into it. And I was thinking, oh my god, finally Star Wars, we've been waiting for this for so long. And then I came out of it so bitterly disappointed. I couldn't even be bothered watching the other films, but in the end I did watch the other ones because it was like years and years later, and I thought, well, I may as well. These new sequels are coming out, so I want to be informed about what's happened. And then when I was actually watching them, it was just an exercise in, okay, these are universally panned as bad films, let's see if they actually are bad, and I'll try and work out why. So I was already doing this sort of thing, and yeah, they were really obvious kind of markers about why they were bad films.
So that was like your coping mechanism in a sense
it really
for something
was.
so beloved. Yeah, absolutely. I've never been too big into Star Wars, but I mean, I definitely got a dose of that medicine with the Dragon Ball movie, which we don't have to talk about. We've talked about many times how it's and everybody knows how it's wasn't good. There's no argument there. There is no counter argument throughout the entire internet. I don't care. Nobody counter argues it, but something just crossed my mind. I have to remember it now. Like I said, my brain is barely functioning today. It'll come back. What was I thinking of? Oh, because I thought anime. So yeah, it can be really disheartening when something you like starts to make decisions that aren't very good.
It can,
and this
yes.
is I really like Jujutsu Kaisen. There are things I really don't like about Jujutsu Kaisen, and one of those things is it does the dialoguing during combat thing non-stop, and explains things that it does not need to explain. Like, it cannot go a full fight scene without stopping and the character like slow motion falling and be like, oh, he was fast enough to hit me. Like, yeah, no shit. I just watched it. You don't have to fucking explain it to me. It gets me so mad because I like the series so much otherwise. Oh, I hate it. Why? Stop doing this.
You've done it again and again. Yeah. That can be so irritating. It reminds me of like I always knew that Yu-Gi-Oh wasn't that great an anime. It's obvious it's an anime about a card game. It's going to be shit. But I thought, well, it's an anime and it's dubbed, and I'm going to watch it anyway because those are often fun and they're colourful. But Blue Eyes White Dragon, Blue Eyes White Dragon, just stop spamming the same frickin' thing over. Just repeating everything and explaining all your motivations. Oh. This character pretending he's a badass, and he's only a badass because he's got a badass voice. There's nothing about him that's a badass.
He's like a 10-year-old, and then he's like, he gets that Egyptian soul or whatever it was. He was possessed, wasn't he? Something like that.
Yeah, by the soul of a pharaoh who lost at a card. Oh God, it's so stupid. The abridged version.
Are you telling me you don't have the heart of the cards, Ozone Ocean? Is that what you're telling me?
I lost it in the card. The American dude beat it out of me.
That would have been awesome if, like, as soon as he gets possessed by like the pharaoh, he starts like talking in like ancient Egyptian, and just nobody can ever understand what the fuck he's saying for the whole series. No subtitles or anything. What?
Writing it out on hieroglyphs and just chiseling it out, showing people this. What? Man pouring water on sand, growing flower. What do you mean by that? 2 amphoras and a wolf. Would have been a very different anime. Probably better.
It was.
Yeah. Oh well, look, we've about reached our time of the bad QUACKCAST, of the bad things, so we should wrap it up, I suppose. I suppose. Well, this has been a very informative QUACKCAST. I hope this has given you a reason to watch bad things, and like not super bad things because they're intolerable and they're not going to enlighten you, but like things that are slightly awful or a bit disappointing, and then you can find something that is worthwhile about them. And
yeah, or how they would have worked. It's a critical exercise. It's also just really fun to bitch about things on the internet. Full disclosure.
True.
So.
True, Dad. All right. Thank you for listening to QUACKCAST number 583. Bye, people. Bye.
Bye.
Tant says, bye. I can't do it. Bye. My name is Tom Serene. I have to go and walk my dogs now.